Hello, listeners. This is Anshuman Tiwari, and you are listening to the CHRO Mindset Podcast.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the season 2 of the CHRO Mindset Podcast. Following an amazing first season, we are returning with even more engaging discussions and practical takeaways. Today, I am pleased to welcome Anshuman Tiwari to today's podcast. And the title of today's podcast is The Mid-Career Reset, Risk, Reward, and Reinvention. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing conversation. But before we get any further, I'd like to introduce Anshuman sir. With over 30 years of experience in transformation, innovation, quality, and simplification, Anshuman Tiwari drives meaningful change at the intersection of people, process, and technology. He has led global initiatives that have delivered over $250 million in impact, trained 10,000 plus professionals in quality and excellence, and helped organizations win prestigious awards like the Deming Prize, an ASQ Fellow, and LinkedIn Top Voice. Anshuman is also a passionate mid-career coach and mentor. A sought-after speaker, he has delivered keynotes and sessions across 15 plus countries and hosts Manage Better, a LinkedIn live show with 100 plus episodes, along with a podcast and a YouTube channel. His mission, to make a lasting impact and help people deliver 10x results. Anshuman sir, we are thrilled to have you here. Welcome to the CHRO Mindset Podcast.
Thank you, Pulkit. And one reason I say yes to these kind of talk shows or podcasts is that one gets to hear these lovely introductions. It almost seems like it is somebody else's introduction. But after a long career, it does sometimes feel nice for a while, maybe 2 minutes, to go through a summary of what all one has been able to do. And also, it's also resolved that there is much more work to do. So thank you for inviting me. I have seen some of your episodes and the wonderful guests that you invite. Slightly nervous from your insightful questions. So be kind to me.
Thanks for the kind words. So let's talk a little bit. Let me walk the audience through a little bit about what we're going to discuss today. Right, the topic is the mid-career reset,
Sure.
risk, reward, and reinvention. So today we are going to discuss how changing career midstreams can feel like jumping without a parachute or finally opening one. More professionals than ever are rethinking their paths, not because they have to, but because they want something more meaningful, challenging, and aligned. And I think I've seen this a lot in pockets after the pandemic, right? So in today's episode, we'll unpack the emotional and strategic journey of making a mid-career switch, what drives people to pivot after years of success in one field, how do they weigh the risks and navigate the unknowns, and most importantly, what mindset shifts, support systems, and skills make the leap worth it. We'll also dive into the highs and lows, what gets carried forward, what gets left behind, and what surprises show up along the way. Is reinvention really worth the risk? Let's find out with Anshuman Tiwari. Okay, let's get started with an icebreaker question, sir. What
Sure.
was your childhood dream job, and how close or far in brackets did you actually, come to it?
I think it's an interesting question, Pulkit. I think the closest I can think of, and these memories are a little blurred, but over the years I've pondered this question often. Two, uh, you can say, dreams were there. This was growing up, like maybe before high school, kind of class 10 kind of thing. One was, of course, a very interesting one, which is voiceover artist for cartoon characters. So I was very fascinated by the cartoon shows at that time on TV. There were not too many, by the way. I grew up in the 70s and early 80s, so not too many. But I was very fascinated by the voice. So I knew that it is somebody else's voice, and even though I was a small child, and I was fascinated with that. So that was my dream, that I will become this person who speaks behind these characters. As I grew up, I was fascinated by hoarding painters. So people who paint these large, now there are no hoardings. Everybody uses these flex panels and boards and other things. But there was a time when even movie posters were painted, and large hoardings were painted, and all those kind of things. And even in for election or for some any announcement, large banners, boards, posters, hoardings. So that was my dream for the longest time. I think growing up even further, I wanted to become an architect. not knowing that software architects will be a thing in future, but I wanted to become a proper building architect. So I think these three stand out. Of course, I'm sure there were many more in between here and there, but these three stand out. The closest I've been, my son is almost an architect now, so he's in the final semester. So I think that is probably the closest I got to any of the three
Awesome.
in that sense. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, interesting, and I think there is some overlap here also, right? I mean, I did also have an option of taking up a bachelor's in architecture course, but eventually
Ah,
took up BTech. But yeah, none of them is being utilized right now. That's a different story. But glad you shared that story with us. Let's now get into the core theme, right? That we have out here,
sure.
mid-career reset. So let's start with your side of the story. I know you have had an illustrious career, and there came a time where you also had to sort of cross the bridge. So let's talk a little bit about that. What fears or doubts came up during the transition, and how did you overcome them? And if you would want to give a short prelude to what we are going to talk about, that would also help the situation as such.
Sure, some context will help,
Yeah.
Pulkit. I think you know, but for your audience, people who are going to listen to this podcast or watch the video or any combination thereof, I recently switched from a almost 30-year-old career in operational excellence and quality management into HR, and more specifically HR ops in that sense. So, and I'm 52, as mid-career as anybody can get, right? So the reference Pulkit is therefore making is that at slightly advanced stage in your career, not that I consider myself old, but slightly advanced age, how do you make this kind of switch? And is it even required? What kind of fears, doubts? That's how I'm taking your question, Pulkit, and
Yeah.
that context hopefully will help people understand why this question is important.
Yeah.
So we do find very few people taking this kind of quote unquote risk or transition at slightly advanced ages, especially 50 plus, particularly also in an environment which is bereft with layoffs and very difficult economic environment, I would say, from a job point of view. Many industries are struggling for what is next for them and so on. And in spite of all that, I was able to make that shift. We'll come to why and how that I made the shift, but right now the question is what kind of fears and doubts. I think these fears and doubts, Pulkit, are the same as when we do anything new. So when we try and learn how to cycle, how to drive, or anything new, there is always that fear of failing, of an accident. Will I be good enough? Those kind of normal human being kind of fears I also had. So I can't claim that the fears were any more sexier than these or any less foundational than these.
Hmm.
And I've spoken to a lot of people in the last 5 years in terms of helping them with some coaching conversations, and I find that these fears are very fundamental. There is one more additional fear that I find very often with people, which I didn't have, but I find is fear of success. A lot of people are very worried that if this works out, they will have to live a different life. That's a fear that we don't normally address. But bringing the question back to me, my fears were very simple: fear of failing, accident, will I be good enough, the normal quote unquote imposter syndrome kind of fears as well. But then I've always been, for the longest time, very confident about my ability. I know my basics well, I know I can apply it to another field. So I think it was not a very prolonged fear for some time. And fear is an emotion which is only and always about what will happen. So once you cross that, that fear is no longer there because you've crossed that, right? So then the fear is something else. Um, so yeah, so that would be my quick response to your question about fears.
Okay, so as they say, डर के आगे ही जीत है. I think that applies this situation as well. But let's get to the next question. What advice do you have for someone who feels stuck but isn't sure what's next? Because a lot of people out there, right, post pandemic, have started to sort of reflect on, why am I doing what I'm doing, and things like that, right? So How do they sort of think about it out of that
So
question?
see, Pulkit, I'm not very prone to giving advice because advice assumes a position of authority, power, moral high ground, and many other things. Um, and I may not know, um, and I may not know any of the listeners that are, going to listen to this podcast. So it's very difficult to advise. Advice needs some investment in knowing your context and your background and your situation. But having said that, risking that that response, I would say a couple of things. One, no one really is sure of what is next. Everyone is acting or pretending whatever choice of word you may have. So no one is really sure about what is next, neither in life nor in career, nothing. Only yesterday I posted that if in this environment, if anybody is surprised when they are laid off, then they are living under a rock. Right? It is happening to so many people, irrespective of sometimes performance or any other meritorious factors. So no one is really sure. So if you are not sure, you are actually part of the 99%, or maybe even 100%. So don't worry at all that if you're not sure. Everybody is figuring this out, and it takes a little while. As long as you have some directional plan, it is okay. You don't need to have it figured out. I give this example very often. I'll repeat it for you, Pulkit. Pick your field, any field. In my field, quality management and all, Dr. J.M. Juran, Edward Deming, Ishikawa, and many other stalwarts are there. And pick anybody in your field. Right? Just go through their history. Uh, some kind of biography. At 20, 25, 30, 35, did they have any clue they will become the legend that they eventually became? No, none of them. Dr. Juran was studying for law and still went on to become the world's foremost quality management consultant of all time.
Hmm.
What is the connection? No connection, right? So nobody has it figured out. Even the stars that you see today and in the heroes that you may have on posters and all, they don't have it figured out. So if you don't have it figured out, no worries at all. The second topic I quickly touch upon often is that plans are nothing, but planning is everything.
Hmm.
Your plan may not work out. Uh, Plan may not always work out, but the fact that you went through the planning process, that the fact that you understood the situation, you developed plans, you developed the whole, maybe in that process learned a lot of new things and built those plans, that will leave you richer. So plan itself not working out is not a loss because the planning is the gain.
Hmm.
You will be better at something else.
Hmm.
So I normally give, since you asked for advice, these are two pieces that I would strongly urge for people to look at. And you will notice that these are generic because I don't know your specific situation. If I knew somebody's specific situation, I may hazard a little bit more specific advice.
Hmm.
But these two never go.
Understood. Thanks for sharing that. So I like that caveat that you said that planning is more important, if not less, than the plan itself.
It is actually a quote by, and I think Bertrand Russell or somebody. So it's a very famous quote, but I have twisted it a little bit. That plans are nothing, planning is everything. The original quote is slightly different, but I use it in this career context by saying plans are nothing, planning is everything.
Okay, understood. Let's get on to the next question, right?
Sure, sure.
Uh, it's not specific to you, but in case someone feels there arrives a moment where he or she feels that was this a mistake, uh, how did you or how can one move past that?
So, see, firstly, I have not really looked back at too many occasions and said that this was a mistake.
Hmm.
So, I've had a long career and many more years to go,
Hmm.
at least 25. Um, but I very rarely, I'm sure I've made mistakes, but I don't look back and go back and brood over that or think that this is a mistake. Maybe only one comes to mind. Very early in my career, after my first job in 1994, I was working for Raymond in Nagpur region, and I left it knowing fully well that I will not be able to study for my MBA exams while doing that job in that look. So I actually left it without telling my parents and came back to Delhi. That in hindsight, I think if my son would do that today, I would not like it. So hats off to my parents that who supported me at that time, but I think that was a mistake. And not only not telling my parents, but also leaving a job without having another job in hand was also a mistake. I would not recommend it to anybody unless you have a reasonable plan. Uh, you should not consider this. So I would think that was the only one which you can call mistake. How do you move past it? Once you've committed a mistake, even if you realize it's a mistake, you can't undone it. Right? It's done.
Hmm.
So at least the way I have built my career is that it's over. So now any amount of thinking about it is not going to change it. It's like, this common question after every exam that you parents ask children, how was the exam? I mean, it's over now. Right? So you can ask, how are you feeling? And do you need something and all? But the exam is actually over.
Hmm.
Any answer is not going to change the uh, outcome of the exam.
Hmm.
So my way of looking at, and I can only advise or give input from my point of view, is that if you think you have made a mistake, uh, no point in killing yourself with that. Now it is done. Now you can look at, okay, how can you repair that damage? Is it repairable? Are there components of that damage that you can repair? In some cases you can, in many cases you can't. If you can't, then you move on. And if you can say sorry, or there is an opportunity to say sorry and move on. If that opportunity is also not there, say sorry in your mind and move on. What else can you do? So I meet a lot of people who keep brooding on 5-year-old mistake, 10-year-old mistake. I can't get over it, that why would you keep something that long with yourself and nobody knows, it is not helping anybody. mm, Nothing. So my strong suggestion is that mistake is done. You now know it is over. Move on.
Very rightly said, and I totally agree with you. It's about the future, not about the past. I think that's how everyone should look at it. Uh,
I don't know if you were expecting a very philosophical, strong.
no,
so, so I am not that Gyan person,
no.
Pulkit. I know many people would have a more theoretical or more academic answer to this kind of a question. I won't say 100% practical, but I'm a fairly practical person. I built my career brick by brick, in the sense that, started with being in the bottom 10% of everything, including academics, sports, public speaking, confidence. When you name it, I was in the bottom 10% of everything. I am fairly in the top 10% of most of these things now.
Hmm.
So step by step, in a practical approach, I've been able to go. So most of what I will tell you is from my journey of how you get from the bottom 10 to the top 10. It may not work for somebody else, but it may inspire somebody else to make their own brick by brick journey. And that is my message. I don't want, and I don't expect anybody to live my journey, right? Which is not possible, because it worked for me. So it's not possible that it will work for somebody else in the same way.
Hmm.
But it may inspire people to have their own brick by brick journey.
Very well said. Let's now talk about let's say someone is wanting to sort of pivot into a new role, right? So how should they reskill or reposition themselves in a completely different space?
Yeah, that's a question that I've actually worked on this for last 4 or 5 years, so I can actually answer from what I did,
Hmm.
and then people can customize the journey and use it the way they want. So, and for everybody, the reason Pulkit is asking this is because I recently made a huge change from operational excellence to HR, and it does seem very different. But even though fundamental level, it might not be very very different, because I'm more at a general manager level now. I don't have to really all the time get into the nitty gritties. Of course, I should know what is happening. I should know some areas specifically, but when you get to a slightly general management level, you can manage with the basics of good management. So it is a change, but it's not like going from Jupiter to Mars
Hmm.
kind of change. But coming to your question, how did I manage this? So, firstly, last 15 years or so, I have been in very deeply involved in people management. So my people management experience was very good. Starting with a team of I think 15 people in 2010 or so, I have had 300, 400 people, which is a large team in my space, operational excellence.
Mm,
It's a very, very large team globally.
mm,
So I had that experience. So I realized over a period of time that that experience was useful. This is one level, step one, that awareness. What are your new skill sets? As you gain experience, what are you learning new? Many people who graduated, let us say in 95, 2000, 2005, or whatever year, uh, they make that as their marker. Uh, I didn't.
mm,
I kept saying that, okay, now I have some additional experience. What is my new visiting card?
mm, mm,
What, how will I introduce myself now?
mm,
Not what I did in 1994 industrial engineering, from Nagpur University. That is, of course, I'm proud of it, but I have to move on from there.
mm,
So that is point one: awareness and you know current awareness of where you are. So that is extremely important to people. I interview a lot of people, and I find that people are stuck in the past. They are unable to shrug it off, and therefore whatever they started doing remains their identity, and they are not able to shake off the identity. That was a little easier for me because I've been reading, writing about it for last 4 or 5 years online as well. So that is one point. Second area is exactly what I mentioned towards the end, that because I've been creating content around career transition and career moves and guidance and those career tips, I slowly became the person I was writing. Right. So
mm,
it is the lines start blurring. So what content you create and the person you are, the lines start to blur. If you are very, I would say, very, very conscious and very intentional and very, very confident about what you're writing, you will consume, you will create, and the lines will start blurring. So I was able to make this shift, or at least I was a candidate from operational excellence for HR role because I was already writing a lot about HR and related topics. So
mm,
for somebody who wanted to hire me, I was not a non HR person.
mm,
I was as HR as anybody else. And so if, for example, somebody has to move into operational excellence, they will have to demonstrate their capabilities. I was able to demonstrate my capability, my skill set, my knowledge, my awareness, my application about HR and related topics through LinkedIn, YouTube, and other medium in the last few years. So and of course also speaking at various forums, and so basically you try and become a thought leader in the new space. So you may be a thought leader in one space. You are not going to get a job in another space by demonstrating thought leadership in this space.
mm,
You have to demonstrate thought leadership in that space,
mm,
the new space. Right? People are expecting, in many people that I meet, by showing their skill set in one space, they expect a job in another space.
mm.
That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So you will have to demonstrate it in the other space, in the new space that you want. So I think that is the core message that I used and I managed, and it worked for me. I'm sure it can work for others because I've seen it work for others as well. Many senior people are able to make this kind of shift, and of course, mid career also. It's probably easier in mid career because you can transition and learn and do a certification and a course and bridge that gap in that sense. So those would be my 2 3 key points in summary. One is, of course, if you're in mid career, you should probably try and learn something new through certifications or courses or other such method, or volunteering for some kind of internship in a new function and those kind of things. And as you get a little more serious, then you have to build your thought leadership or demonstrate your thought leadership in a new space, like I demonstrated in HR and career related space. So
Mm.
short answer.
Yeah, yeah, no, that helps. Let's now talk about the mindset shifts, right? According to you, what should those mindset shifts be, and why are they so important during a transition?
So mindset is again slightly personal choice
Yeah.
because I often say that you may not have the strongest mind in the room, but you can have the strongest mindset in the room.
Mm,
So mind is not sometimes in our control; it was given to us. Right? We can of course develop it and get better, but most of it was given, just like looks are and other physical attributes. But what we can do with it, so we can build our mindset.
Mm.
I think the last few years, the concept of growth mindset that Carol Dweck
Yeah.
and others have worked on, uh, it has completely changed how I think, and I do credit myself with, reading a lot and learning and imbibing many things. And that's how I made the journey from bottom 10 to top 10 in that sense. But one of the few books that completely changed is this book around mindset, which is basically about having a growth mindset. How, winners think, and they think ahead, and they keep learning, and they want to belong to a group, and they want to the virtues of teamwork, collaboration, and all is more important, and so on. So right, so there is, I'm sure your audience, because it's mostly from the HR field, would have heard of this book. So that growth mindset summarizes actually everything. So they kind of shift. The other area I would strongly recommend, and it is part of growth mindset as well, is confidence. Confidence that you can do this. If a person is hiring you is confident that you can do this, why are you underconfident, right? So I have had some calls, coaching conversations, Pulkit, very strange ones, where I am only a couple of weeks ago, somebody said that the person said that I have two job offers, and both are out of my comfort zone, and this and that and everything. So I was expecting that the question will be, which one should I pick? But his question was that, and I'm thinking of declining both the jobs. I was aghast. I said, but this is what you wanted, right? So you wanted a shift in job. Somebody is offering you a job. Two people are offering you a job, and both are, you know, something you wanted. It is again that fear of success. He wanted this, tried this, it is happening. Offer is almost on the table. Now he's developing cold feet because he thinks that what if this works out?
Mm.
So, contrary to what we think, that fear of failure is more important. Actually, many people get stay back because of fear of success. That's one of the reasons many people are not able to leave a job after many years, is because they don't know. They know they will be successful, but that's a very stressful situation for them. Uh, so anyway, coming back to mindset, so I think these two will be very important: confidence, and the fact that other people are showing confidence in you. It happened to me recently, right? So when I was shifting my job, during the final round interview, I was asked, "Are you not taking a risk?" My response, I obviously slightly differently worded, but I said that, look, you are taking a bigger risk than I am. So, so, and what is the risk in this, right? So it may not work out exactly how you planned. It may work out better than you planned.
Mm. Mm.
So I am going for that. So I'm not. This may sound arrogant and overconfident to some, but it was said from a place of deep confidence that I know what I can do and I can make this thing happen. It may not exactly be as per your plan, but I can make this thing happen. So these two, I would think, one is of course the growth mindset part, which I would strongly recommend. If people have not read this book, Mindset, you can check any number of videos on YouTube as well. Lot of good creators have put out videos on growth mindset, very good articles, and a lot of material available, and fantastic mindset theory. It has brought down years of knowledge into one word: growth mindset, right? So uh, I'm not saying that it was an original work. Nothing is original in this world. Everything is adapted. But it is beautifully summarized in a small book, easily available in India, Indian edition available. So not very expensive to have. And if I can say that, if people listening to this podcast DM me on LinkedIn, I will send it to 5 people from the people who send it to me after listening this to this podcast. So that will be my gift to people, Pulkit, if with your permission.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. No, thanks for sharing those insights. Now, brings me to the last question of the theme, right? The core theme that we have out here. Were there any surprising rewards, things that you didn't expect that came with the change? And I'm talking about surprising rewards.
So yeah, I won't say it's totally surprising, but the intensity of the reward was surprising. So I did expect a warm welcome. I did expect people to be, you know, a little welcoming for somebody who's new in their fraternity. I, but the welcome was even more warm than I thought. Everybody wanted to spend some time, help me understand the organization, the industry, the domain of HR, and all those things. And still, right, I'm still new in the role. So I think that part was definitely new, and that could go from that could change from company culture to company culture. So I'm not saying every company will be like that, but in my particular case, it was definitely rewarding. Uh, and I think the other part, which possibly I had not expected, is that being a little more, I would say, out in the open on LinkedIn and general social media, particularly LinkedIn, the kind of messages I got, congratulatory messages, were very touching. People literally saw that I was doing what they wanted to do, and that gave them some hope and inspiration. It's a small thing if you see, so many people change job, right? So I also changed a job, nothing big, but because I changed industry, domain, uh, many other things, I think that became a little bit of a symbol. So I was surprised with that. I was surprised with one comment, a fellow LinkedIn, um I would say, very famous person. I don't want to name him. Um, said, is that, Anshuman, you have become a case study for what you teach. So for the last 4 or 5 years, whatever I've been teaching on LinkedIn, in that sense, I like that and maybe I should mention Anand Veshampayan is a good friend, he's a career coach himself, and fantastic insights he brings out about career. Maybe you should invite him to your session also, Pulkit. Very articulate and very famous as well. But he brought out this insight that I had missed, that I have become a case study for what I teach. And probably you inviting me to this podcast is exactly because of that, because you wanted some insights on that.
Interesting. Okay, awesome. With that, let's move into our rapid fire section, right? So I'm going.
Oh, nahi, nahi, that is, I am very scared of these rapid fire, and don't ask
You
me
can
about
you can
songs.
skip any question, right? You always have that veto right of skipping the question. So if I'm going,
Don't ask me any song and all, and
no, 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 no,
so,
no, no, we'll keep it strictly professional. So don't have to
sure.
worry about that.
Hmm.
And absolutely, you have the freedom to say no. Right?
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, okay,
Go ahead.
let's try it. So best piece of advice you got during your transition.
It's all going to be okay.
Okay, the worst advice.
Again, it's all going to be okay. It is never all okay. So it is the best and the worst, I would say.
Understood. What surprised you most about the new field or role?
I think I mentioned in the previous answer, people were very, very welcoming and wanted to teach me, guide me, help me. Of course, I must have come across as a person who was willing to be taught and learn. So I'm not saying it is one way; it is both ways. So short answer is people were very welcoming.
Interesting. If you had to switch careers again, what would you do?
I have been wanting a career in HR for a while, Pulkit. So I don't think I would
Yeah,
change
yeah.
at all.
Okay.
Um,
One skill you carried over that still serves you today.
I don't know if it is a skill, but I'm very easy to talk to. And I've put in some effort in that. So I walk into a room, I can find somebody I can talk to, and they will. I get this a lot of times that people speaking to me, they feel that they have known me for a long time, uh, and I've only now started noticing that there's a pattern in it. And so yeah, being easy to talk to will be something I've recently started to realize.
Okay. Last question. Biggest myth about career changes.
It's all going to be okay. So I think I gave same answer for three, but for different reasons. But so it is not going to be okay. There will be difficulties, but it is up to us to manage those challenges. So I won't say everything is okay. You have to put in that effort, but it's not as bad as you think. It's not as good as you think.
Right.
I say this quite often, that it's never as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think.
Yeah.
Life is somewhere in between.
Yes, 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 yes. Very, very right. Let's now get to the last question. Is
Sure.
chasing stability overrated once you have hit mid career?
Yes and no. It is different for different people. Some people need and want that stability, Pulkit, because of maybe family reasons or financial uh, constraints that they may have, or their skill set constraints, or they realize that they don't have it in them to go further. And I respect such people because they have made a good assessment of where they are in life, and looking at everything, they are making a choice that they don't want to be overly mobile and they would like to be stable, like so many people in more stable jobs like a government job or a teaching job or the others. My respects to them because they made a choice. It's not that they don't have aspirations. They must be having aspirations. They must be thinking about a fancy car. They must be thinking about a bigger house. They must be thinking about a overseas holiday. But they do a very good analysis of where they are in their career and figure out that maybe this is the best option that they have. So no, I don't want to call them out in any way. In fact, I would like, I have deep respect for them, and this is the society around us, so they are the majority in that sense. So, and they have done the assessment, nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
But if you are taking risks, I would strongly say that please know and please be very aware that the world is under no obligation to make your risks pay off. A lot of people I meet tend to say, Anshuman, I took this risk, but it didn't work out. This didn't work out. That didn't work. The word itself means risk. So it it is more likely not to work out. That is why it is a risk. If it was likely to work out, then it is not going to be called risk.
Right.
So what is this fascination that because you took a risk, the world should align to your comfort?
Hmm.
You will have to pay the price if you've taken a risk. So if you don't want to pay that price, if you don't want to take that risk, then a stable career is not overrated because it may be your thing. But if the person thinks that there is a larger price that they want and they want to go for it, then some risk may be required. But then that price will be required also. I know two people I spoke to on the last, I think, a month or so. One I spoke to earlier today as well, who is returning to work, trying to return to work after a 5-year failed startup.
Hmm.
And he's, of course, returning to a level lower because he's saying that, look, I paid the price.
Hmm.
And that's okay because I tried something, chased my dream, didn't work out. So I want to come back to stable income for my family. And hats off to such people.
Thanks for your insights and point of view on that as well. With this, we come to the end of this great conversation. I know we took up a topic that is little different from the usual conventional HR topics, but we wanted to make sure that we have a person who has done that right, and they're just not preaching. Things that sound beautiful and poetic, but they have already tried out something. So kudos to you, for that. And it was an amazing conversation. Some of the caveats that you had to share were really awesome. I've taken down my notes, but then I love the simplicity with which you narrated what it takes to really make a decision. I think there's this element of simplicity that makes it all the more easy for anybody who's wanting to sort of make a career switch. And as they say, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing, right? And you are a shining example of that, right? So there's no convention. I think that's the key takeaway. Of course, it requires a lot of deliberation, requires a lot of experience building, consulting, and whatnot to be able to really get to a point where one can take that decision. But yeah, one will never have 100% things sorted out, whether they should do X or Y. So somewhere down the line, it's also a personal thing, right, that has to be taken care of. But thanks a lot, Anshuman sir. Thanks a lot for
My pleasure, totally. And I hope it was useful. One quick thing I sometimes present is that, career decisions are sometimes also that, for example, in the Olympics, the 100-meter sprint,
yeah.
it's usually done under 10 seconds.
Huh.
But the athlete is sometimes preparing for 4 years for that moment.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything comes together in that moment. So sometimes our careers are in preparation of that moment.
very right.
You have to recognize that that moment has arrived You have to now take that decision. You have worked hard all your career. Don't back off at that moment, because now that moment has arrived where everything is coming together, all that you wanted. That is something I share a lot. I hope it's useful to your audience. And of course, it was lovely speaking to you, Pulkit. And I would love to be on this again after some time to tell you whether it worked out or not. so, so,
Okay. No, no. Thanks for being so kind, and thanks for taking out time to speak with us. This was an amazing conversation. One question before we wrap up: where,
sure.
how can listeners contact you? Should they need any help?
Oh, I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn, Pulkit. So people can follow me if they want to read what I share, and if they have a specific request, they can also book time on TopMate with me, and I will be happy to speak to people. Or they can DM me on LinkedIn, and I can let them know where to find me further.
Great, great. Thanks for that. With that, we close today's episode of the CHRO Mindset podcast on such a lovely topic. We hope you found the conversation insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review wherever you are listening to this episode. Until next time, take good care of yourself, and thanks again for joining us today.